Hi, and welcome to another edition of Billy and Sam Make Poor Decisions, this time from Austria. This was Challenge St. Polten, and we had a blast, despite our own stupidity. So, this is a fun video reviewing St. Polten with all of our shenanigans and antics. Why don't you go ahead and just get us started?
I'll start with the first bad decision. The first bad decision was we came to Vienna, and we're staying in Vienna, and we decided, okay, we're going to go to St. Polten's, an hour away, hour and 20 minutes away by car. We're going to stay in Vienna. We're going to go to St. Polten for Saturday night before the race. The race is on Sunday. So the very first bad decision was we waited until Saturday afternoon to go to St. Polten. Then we walked through the streets of Vienna with our bike bags, if you can imagine that, in our suitcase, to the metro station, subway station. Hopped on the metro, went and found the train that went to Vienna. And that actually, relatively speaking, went pretty smoothly.
It's clean.
As big as the bike bags are, those things are huge, guys. We had two of them, so it was that went smoother than probably I would have thought.
We deserved.
We get to Vienna. Now, how do we get to our hotel?
St. Polten.
We get to St. Polten. Yeah, how do we get to our hotel? Well, there's a bus. All right, so we'll hop on the bus. Because the bike bags, you can't even, you might can fit one in a taxi, but you can't fit two in a taxi. That's not happening. So, all right, the bus. And so we finally figure out, we buy bus tickets to what we think is the right bus, and then we finally, there's like an office. Did you just buy bus tickets just to get on the bus? It was $1.80.
We thought it was the right bus, to be fair.
Anyway, it was like $2 per person to ride the bus. So we're looking for a bus with a number, I think number 1 or something, and we get out to the exit or whatever of the bus station, and they're all letters. There's no numbers, and we're like, what's going on here? So we go back into the bus station. Oh, and the buses, because we were asked the bus drivers, and the buses that were sitting out there were empty. So we come back in, and there's an office, and so Sam goes in the office, and he comes out, and he said, okay, we want bus number 3, and it's on the other side. Sure enough, on the other sid of the bus station, there were numbers, and so we went and we found bus number 3. Note that we got on the correct bus. It was going the wrong direction. It was going away from our hotel. We can see this on our phone that, hopefully the bus goes in a circle. Well, there's a bunch of drunk college kids that get on the bus with us. And when I say a bunch, maybe 8, 12, they were chugging their beers right before they got on the bus because they couldn't, I guess, bring
Take
the beers
on the bus.
Come to find out, they're going to the St. Polten football match, soccer match. That is in
They
the
were
stadium.
hooligans, not just drunk college kids, they were soccer hooligans.
Yeah. So anyway, they get off the bus, and as they get off, we're looking out the windows and we're passing. And there's the transition and check-in and everything right to our left. We're just passing by the stadium. It's the soccer stadium is where everything was set up with. And we're like,
Stop.
let's get off at the next stop and walk back, and we'll go ahead and check in. That was a good decision because it was already 4:05 or something like that, and our hotel was on the other side of the city. We were never making it back by 5 o'clock to get checked in. So we hop off the bus with our suitcase and our bikes, and we're rolling everything up to go check in. And that actually probably went smoother than it should have. We had to go through the COVID protocol. So you go and you get this wristband. So you get the yellow wristband is first. And that's saying, and our vaccination cards worked for that. Didn't have to have a test or anything. You just showed them the vaccination card and they gave you the COVID thing. So from there, you went to go check in. So before you check in, you had to pay the mafia 16 pounds or 16 euros to get by them. And it had to be in cash. And
that was the Austria triathlon.
I don't even know if the Austria triathlon thing is a thing. It was two guys with a table and a till, and they didn't give us a receipt or anything, but you couldn't get past them unless you gave them 16 euros. So we gave those guys 16 euro. We go check in, and I guess we'll go over here and do the swag and everything first.
Yeah.
So you check in, and they were ready for us, I guess, and you got a race number with your name on it. Your number had already been assigned, so that was pretty cool. And I have given challenge. So we did Challenge Miami, and their swag was not all that great, but Challenge Europe has it figured out. So. If you'll remember from our previous videos, this is the year of the Ironman dry bag. All of the races, I assume, are going to have dry bags from Ironman.
So far, we're batting 1,000 with 2 for 2.
So we get to St. Polten, and they have a dry bag. But I'll give them credit. Their dry bag is superior to Ironman's dry bag.
Way better.
It is a nice, big, has lots of pockets, lots of.
It's actually a zipper on the front.
It's huge. It has. It even has a pocket on the inside to put documents and stuff. Rolls up, and it rolls up into an actual backpack size. So good for them.
Great dry
It
bag.
was also sponsored by a grocery store, Spar. I guess that's how you say it. SPAR is the name of the grocery store. And when you have a race sponsored by a grocery store, apparently they give you a bag of groceries. And there was a ton of stuff, an apple,
Waffle.
like 3 or 4 drinks. All kinds of food in this thing.
Including, we have to show this. There's no way to actually fully demonstrate the weight of whatever this is, but it scared us all. It's basically a brick of seeds and something else dense.
Oh, we're gonna eat it. We're gonna eat it before we leave. Most definitely. Okay, so we get the bag and that's cool. Go over and get your T-shirt. Go get your T-shirt and medal.
Cool.
Never gotten a finisher T-shirt and a finisher medal prior to actually competing in the race. So that was neat. First time for everything, I suppose. So I guess for COVID stuff, they didn't want to hand these out.
Yeah, I really liked that. That was really clever. As far as COVID protocols go, we didn't have anybody at the finish line, right? Because all of the racers aren't wearing masks. So you didn't have any of those exposures required. Later we'll talk about cheerleaders, but
there were cheerleaders at the finish line.
As far as COVID protocols, these guys did a really great job, and I was very impressed with the way that they thought through as much as one can think through.
So speaking of COVID protocols, we're so very fortunate to even have been able to compete in this race. Americans are not allowed in Austria. That's the deal.
Because Delta told us.
Yeah,
Americans are not allowed in Austria as we're checking into the airport.
We'll do a travel video later, but basically we had to have a letter of invitation from Austria, from the Austrian government, to be able to come and race as Americans. Europeans, I think, can come without that letter, but as Americans, we had to have that letter. So that was nice that they provided that for us and gave us the opportunity to be able to come over. So kudos to them for that. And you get you get your T-shirt, so we're going over bad decisions. So you get your T-shirt, you get your medal, and we got to go do bike check-in. So bike check-in, we've been so lax in this. We can go set up whenever. So I was thinking, we'll just go drop off the bike whenever we need to. Well, apparently it had to be dropped off that day, because in Challenge Miami, we showed up the morning of, and there were plenty of people bringing in their bikes then. So I just kind of figured that's how it would be. Apparently, if you actually read the documents that they send you, you're supposed to have it done by 1800, 6 p.m., but 1800 is what they call it. So we're actually doing all right on time. But we're out in the parking, not even the parking lot. We're at the stadium, kind of in this little concrete area. Everybody's walking by. we put our bikes together because they're in the bike cases, and we got to check them in. So we go ahead and put them together, and we've actually gotten a little bit better at that. I wouldn't say they were experts, but we actually got them put together pretty fast. But we had deflated the tires to take them on the plane. So you don't want the tires exploding. So we deflated the tires. So we needed air, so we couldn't do a checkout ride or anything. But anyway, I go put my bike in transition. We go ahead and create, since we have all of our luggage and everything with us, we can actually create our run bag and bike bag. And I think we actually could have brought those the next day. They wanted you to bring them that day, but you had access to that stuff the next day. I did see some
people the next day bring
them. So that wasn't as important as dropping off your bike. But since we already had our luggage and everything, we could do that. And no, I mean, we're doing this out in the open, out in front of everybody. Of course, they're all walking by. I have no idea what kind of comments they were saying. But I'm sure there were some colorful stuff like, look at these two idiot Americans over here just showing up at the end of the day trying to get all this stuff in. So anyway, I finish all that and go drop off the bike, and I come back, and as I'm dropping off the bike, I ask them if there's air, and they don't know what I'm talking about. So I'm like, pumping of the bike, and they're like, oh, okay, yeah, maybe inside. And so I go inside, and I'm looking around, and I don't see anybody, and so I go ask the people inside, hey, you got a pump? And they're like, yeah, tomorrow, you can get it maybe tomorrow. There'll be plenty of people here. I mean, I'm not a tomorrow kind of person. I like to get stuff. I don't want to have to worry about that at 5 in the morning. So anyway, I get back up to where Sydney was. Sydney was kind of standing, keeping guard over all of our splayed out stuff because we basically just opened the bike cases, opened up our luggage, put our stuff in, and then went and took it to drop it off. So anyway, come back, and Sam's not there, but he had traded out a wheel because it had rubbed a spot on the wheel, and we had extra. And I noticed, I'm like, man, this one's pumped up. What's up with that? Where did he get air from? So Sam comes back around after I'm finished, like, hey man, where'd you get air from? He's like, oh, there's a guy in the that works on bikes in the village or whatever.
Yeah.
I'd call it Ironman Village.
Yeah,
I guess it's athlete village. Yeah. And I was like, oh, well, let me go get my bike and do this. And so, first of all, I'd already gotten stopped, and the guy asked me about my helmet, and I was like, yeah, the helmet's in the bag. And he was like, no, on your head. I'm like, all right, I'll put the helmet on my head. I have no idea why you want me to I'm not fixing to ride my bike. Why am I putting my helmet on my head? Anyway, put the helmet on my head. So I'm like, do I even do I go back and get my helmet? And
you have to go back and get your helmet.
Get my helmet, put my helmet on
to get the bike back out.
So I go right by these guys leaving, and I'm sure they were probably saying something to me in German that I wasn't paying attention to. But anyway, I get up, we get the guy, he pumps up the air, and I've got rubbed spots on my tires too, but I don't have any extra. Sam already took the extra, so I'm just hoping that I'd last the whole race.
Also of note, the European pumps are not the same. He's asking how much air do you want? Like 90, 95. We'll let it come down to 90. He's looking at me really weird.
6 or 7.
Numbers go to 10. Apparently PSI does not translate into the metric system.
Yeah, there was on most bike pumps, you would, like on the speedometer, you have miles and kilometers or whatever. On this thing, it was just numbers. There was it was like 6 or 7. I don't know, 7? Anyway, it gets me pumped up, and so Sam leaves to go back over to where Sydney was, and I go back down, and he looks at me, and he was like, no, 1800, you can't come. 1800? What are you? I didn't read. I didn't know we were supposed to be having all that stuff there by 6 o'clock. And I was like, no, I just went out and got air in my tire. And, he's saying something in German. 1800. And I'm like, I just left just a minute ago. He did not want to let me in. I mean, at all. And I was like, it was already in. I've already dropped off my other bags. All I have is the bike. I just got to put it back. I think he just got tired of arguing with me in German or something. I don't know, because he finally let me in and let me put my bike up. And I'm sure he was shaking his head the whole time. And I think he probably even looked at my number, and he was like, yeah, that guy's not going to win. but whatever, I got it in. So that was our first set of bad decisions, but it ended up working. I mean, how dumb are we that we get on the right bus going the wrong way, and it actually takes us somewhere that we didn't even think we needed to be.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
this was unbelievably lucky. So race, it's a race morning. I guess we could skip ahead.
yeah.
So the swim, I had an exciting swim, I guess, of them. Right. So you're once again COVID protocols, and for all of the American races that we've had, we have COVID protocols. Everybody's got their mask on all the way until right before you jump in the water. They have the same thing here with the trash can at the very end. But of course, in the American races, I wouldn't say you're shoulder to shoulder so much as stepping on top of one another to get pressed forward to get your spot for the swim. Here, they had all of the cones lined up, just like they do in the American races, except everybody actually followed you were standing on your cone 6 feet away from everybody. 2 meters, sorry. Away from everybody. And they had challenged people making sure that there was cones were that rule was being followed. The rule following here has been night and day above the American race. Has been fascinating. I stopped counting the bike judges.
We had vastly different race experiences. Vastly different race
Apparently,
experiences.
all of the motorcycle officials were in fact keeping an eye on me, because there had to be 20 of them, maybe 30 that I counted. I finally just got tired of counting, but there was a lot. I generally see them once or twice during a race, and that's it. But so we're going down to jump in the water, and I had put my toe in, and I knew it was cold. Yes, this isn't that bad. I jumped in the water, and I actually saw the Titanic at the bottom of this lake. It was freezing. I start my strokes, and I can't breathe. I'm gonna die. This is it. This is how I go. I'm breaststroking because I can't breathe. So, I mean, they're swimming past me because I'm in an early group. I don't know how I got there, what lies I told that I was a fast swimmer, but apparently Austrian officials bought them. My fault. So I'm breaststroking. I actually took my goggles off. I was really out. I was done. So the paddleboarder started looking at me and saying things in German. And I'm sure it was get out of the way for all of these fast people. And I was determined not to quit, but I'm gonna die. I'm not gonna make it, man. This is it. I'm gonna have to quit this race. No, I gotta keep trying. So I put the goggles back on. 1 stroke, nope. Maybe 2 strokes, nope. So it took me 500 yards or so to get used to that water, and finally it just calmed down and got going, and still continuing to get past. So apparently my stroke does not matter. They just pass slightly slower when I'm doing freestyle. But the swim is wild. So this is the first lake race, and I had there's a little bit at the corners, but I did not get swam over once. The Austrian swimmers here were head and shoulders what we have in the States, and it's probably
more courteous. Do you think? Is that what you think? They're more courteous, or are they just better at not?
We may have just stumbled into a professional race, so we could just be a couple of idiots that found very good racers. But yeah, it was they bumped me, so they'd find me just like any other race, but especially like Ironman Florida is really bad about it, where you're just on top of one another. And so my MO is, as soon as I feel something at my feet, I try to stop kicking so that I don't hit anybody. I mean, but they'd hit me once and then I'd never feel them again, where normally it's I've had some people literally swim over the top of me. It was a great race for that. I loved that. So then you get out of the first lake. They've devised this evil system of a second lake. And so you get out and you're cold. Run. The German word was something else. And then they figure out that I was from the US. Go! We're going to need a minute, man. Let's just... So you get in the second lake. And Augusta, you can see the weeds and they feel like they're right there. And here you could see the weeds and they were actually right there. Apparently the pond growth here is a little bit higher. So I was in the 400s. So I'm in the, second or third group to go off. So it did not get churned up, but I was swimming through some grasses. I was I'm just feeling bad for Billy because I know what's coming. So come out, you do the second loop, the second lake. So no 2 loop, 2 lakes. So we get into transition, finish the swim, into transition, and I loved the bike. I had a blast. I hate hills, and I'll let him talk about all of that. But after the hills, you had these just amazing descents. And for the third hill for me, I've got this great descent. We're flying all the way home. I've got some 10-minute, 5-mile segments in there. It was awesome. Tell me about your experience.
I had a vastly different experience on the bike than Sam. It was vastly different. So, a couple of things to note. The Europeans are in shape. Note that this shirt is a large.
And she apologized. I'm sorry, the shirts are so big. They're really big.
The Europeans are very good at being fit. That was a game that we played. Is there anyone less fit than Billy? There were not very many people that were less fit than Billy. So anyway, my comments on the swim are I remember the weeds. You end up with weeds all over you. I fall coming out of the second lake because there's fist-sized rocks that you have to get over. Anyway, I hop on the bike. So I'm running out of transition. I go get my bike bag. So in your bike bag, you have your helmet, your shoes. And I had decided that it would be important. I brought some arm sleeves. So if it's cold, I can wear the arm sleeves. If it's not so cold, I don't have to put them. They're in my bike bag. I get all that stuff back, so it's not like you lose it. And I get the bike bag, and I look up, and the sun has come out. And I mean, first of all, you're frigid coming out of the water, so your teeth are chattering and all that. And I'm like, I don't want to mess with the bike sleeves on the bike today. That was another poor decision that was made.
Number 4 if you're counting.
I get on the bike and I ride on the bike. And I probably had a pretty similar experience to Sam for the first 60K. So it's a 90K bike, 56 miles. It's the same thing as Ironman stuff. But for 60K, and the reason I know that is because the big hill is at 60K. So I'm enjoying the bike ride. As you wind through the course, you see a river, you go through villages, and these villages that you go through, you're on a 1-lane road and the houses are on the road, like there's no sidewalk or whatever. And I mean, they're just, we're not talking skyscrapers, they're 2-3 stories, whatever, cute Austrian villages that you're just winding through, and it's awesome. The roads are all perfect, not perfect, but they're the best roads I've ever been on a bike. I mean, I'll go ahead and give you my deal on the bike. I mean, it's the best bike I've ever been on. And we're talking to the race director. It wasn't the race director, the race organizer. Race organizer is who she was. After the race, and she said yes, the race course had been voted best bike course for a number of years. So it's a great bike course, and I can second that, no problem. The hills. So the hills are big. They're three climbs is what they call it, and the first climb, got your heart racing and you're good, but it was not an impossible climb. I mean, it was a climb for sure, but it was fine. And you get to the top, and you're overlooking like these mountains, these terraced mountains that they have these winery vineyards on. I mean, I kind of wanted to stop and take a picture. I didn't have a camera. I might have stopped to take a picture. I mean, it was just beautiful as you're riding through all of this. Anyway, so to fast forward, that one was started at 20K, I think. Maybe it lasted a mile or two. And then you kind of wind through a whole bunch of other stuff. Super scenic. and then you get to 60K, and at 60K is the big hill, and the big hill is a 1,000-foot climb, and it's steep. I mean, I did see one dude walking his bike up the hill, and I'm pretty sure they lynched him when he got back. I mean,
he's been invited to the U.S.
So while I'm thinking about it, let me step back. Sam said that they're sticklers for the rules, and that he had to go back and put his bike belt on to ride the bike. That was the first that I've heard of that, because I didn't wear my bike belt on my bike, and I never heard anybody tell me I had to. I literally, that was the first time I had heard that. All right. Anyway, so to step back a little bit, when I biked in South Africa, my age group, this was at the Ironman World Championships a few years ago. My age group was the very last age group to go. And since I'm not a very good swimmer, it was kind of a rolling start, and I was in maybe the last group or the second to last group. So I'm by myself in South Africa on the bike for large stretches of time. This bike, I was also by myself for large stretches of time. There was one time where I clocked it, and there was a 10-mile stretch where I was by myself. Nobody passed me. I didn't pass anybody. I didn't see anybody. But there were people and officials. I don't even know what an official looked like, because I think they had already parked their motorcycle by the time I got to the bike. But anyway, at 60, so back to the problems. At 60K, you start up the hill, and it's a steep hill, and we had actually changed out the cassettes on our bike to make it a little bit easier for us to go up this hill. So we changed out our bike gearing so that we'd be able to do the mountains, because we have this race and then Virginia next week, which actually has a 2,000-foot climb, so actually a little bit harder climb than this one. Hopefully we'll be able to make that one too. But anyway, I'm going up the hill, and as I get almost to the top, so as I have suffered through the entire hill, it starts to rain. And so it rained hard enough to get the roads good and wet, so that I did not feel like I could go very fast on the downhills, which was very disappointing. And it was very cold. Remember I told you I left those arm sleeves back? That was a mistake. There were dudes out there with jackets on. And I was cold. And so you get up to the top, and then you start down, and then there's steep downhills. And when I say steep downhills and curves, they had ambulances at the curves. I mean, I'm not talking about like, a volunteer or whatever. I'm talking about a full-blown ambulance with the stretcher out ready for you. On the curves, I mean, they had padding or airbags or whatever. I mean, they knew people were going to go off the side of the mountain. The first hill that I went down, I passed somebody, because I passed somebody and she's yelling at me. It's something in German. And as I get closer to the curve, I realize that she's yelling, "Hey, slow down, there's a big curve up here." I mean, that was my loose translation. She might have been saying something else, but that's what I think she was saying. Anyway, the rain is pelting me, and it's stinging, and I'm cold, and I'm numb, and I've got these, my bike shoes have these nice air pockets, air vents, to let air get into the bottoms of your shoes so that your feet don't get all sweaty, so it keeps you nice and cool. And that is absolutely not the one thing that you want when it's raining, because that water just shoots up in there like my toes go numb, then my feet go numb, then my legs go numb, and then I'm chattering, and I'm in my arrow position, because this was the warmest that I could be, because I could, just get down like this and, grit my teeth as I'm shaking or whatever, and I'd move this arm over, and because my brakes aren't on my arrow bar, they're on the little thing down here, so I'm gripping the brake like, please don't let me die, because these roads are slick and I'm so cold and I don't know what's going on. And so finally I get down to the bottom of that hill, and I get to the third climb. And at the third climb, I'm going like 6 miles an hour, 8 miles an hour. And I'm like, oh, this is wonderful. I'm not as cold anymore because the wind's not coming over me. The rain's not pelting me. It's still raining, but the rain's not pelting me. I'm able to get my heart rate up a little bit. Anyway, so I get to the top of that, and then it's kind of a downish hill all the way to transition. And I knew I was getting close to transition, and I'm frozen. Everything's numb. I mean, I'm sure my legs had cramped up by that time, but I couldn't feel them, so it didn't matter. And I get into transition, and I mean, I'm one of the last bikes coming in. I mean, so you drop my bike off, and I go to pick up my run bag, and it's just empty, except for, I mean, there might have been 50. Maybe, so it was possible there were 50 people behind me, but I'm just going to assume that they all fell off the mountain or something because I'm pretty sure I was about last. And so anyway, I changed. Luckily, I did make a good decision.
Okay.
So by this time it had stopped raining, and it was not raining and it didn't even, I don't even know, did it rain on the run?
I sacrificed. It drizzled on me for like 5 minutes. My shoes didn't even get wet, but it was basically the same experience. Really. Yeah.
So anyway, I get there and it's pretty dry. So you know, I could sit out and I could change. I had brought some extra socks, so I could take off my socks that I'd worn on the bike, and I could put on some fresh new socks. And oh my goodness, that was so amazing. I had the fresh socks on, put the shoes on. And I couldn't feel anything, but it made it so much better. Just the socks. So finally made a good decision and had the extra socks. So hit us on the run. Let us know. Or actually, you can tell us about your bike experience too.
Oh man, I had a blast. I would come back here for a bike tour. I hate hills, and those hills are nasty. But it was gorgeous. You come up that first hill, and you're going through all these vineyards, and then these fields of, I think that was grain, I'm assuming wheat. Unbelievably pretty. Just the pictures you see from the Tour de France were in Austria, but the villages looked just like that. It was maybe one of the greatest bikes I've ever had. It was warm, the sun was shining. It was so nice. And I wanted a water bottle with the St. Polten logo on it, Challenge St. Polten logo. So I have my own nutrition, so I throw everything away after the first stop, and then it occurs to me somewhere around there, oh, those are really nice water bottles. So I grabbed one, and sure enough, it had the logo on the second. I mean, I got everything I wanted out of that ride. It was fantastic.
I like to go fast. I mean, if I could have hit 50 or 55 on that, I mean, I would have.
Yeah.
But the roads were wet.
I hit my brakes. I was cruising, but it scared me. That speed, because you had a bunch of turning, which was, I mean, it was fun. It was a lot of fun. I'm sorry, man. But yeah, you're taking the turns wide and cutting the corners so that you're trying to racing line and not trying to fall off the bike or the mountain. And so I'm stayed in my drops more than I was aero going down those hills because I wanted those brakes. The roads are just fantastic, really smooth. I loved it. I had a blast.
I wanted to take my bike to the bike shop after this is over because my brake pads have to be gone. I used my brakes so much that there's probably nothing left of my brake pads.
So I started out on the run, and like I said, like heavy drizzling for a solid 5 minutes. So I'm trying to avoid puddles, and I don't like my shoes and socks getting wet. And so for 2 hours, my half marathon is usually around 2 hours. I tried to get somebody to talk to me, and I don't know if you know this, they take this race very seriously. I don't know whether it's that or they just didn't want to speak English or they were just ignoring me.
And we know they speak English. Well, some of them do anyway. As many people as he talks to, there had to have been somebody that spoke English.
I got one person the entire time to actually respond. That was my new buddy. And that was at the end of the race. So, my sacrifice was not being able to talk to anybody for the entire half marathon. But yeah, that run is gorgeous. There's a lot of, I don't know what to call that. Like, it's a gravel road. But
I'd call it trail running. If you go trail running, I mean, that's kind of
it's the small gravel. It's
Yeah.
not like the large. It's really, I mean, it was great. It was just fantastic. Course is great. I loved it. There were no bad decisions. Bad decision number 5. I saved the best for last. So the night before, Billy and Sydney were going to get his nutrition from the store. So I said, hey, pick me up a couple of liters of water. So
no, that was the bad decision. He asked Billy to pick up the water. That was the bad decision. This is the result.
So they got me. It was actually a liter and a half. So as it turns out,
it was cheaper.
Liter and a half was the appropriate amount of water because I used it all. But so I didn't even look at it. I set it by the door. Perfect. I got my 2 bottles. I've got all of my Tailwind and Gatorade and salt mixture. Which went through the airport, by the way. So, bag of white powder, no problem. I was really waiting for those questions. So, we get out there the next morning, and I'm starting to fill my, I put it in the bottle, and it's fizzing. I look down, and they got sparkling water from the store.
There were a lot of choices for water. All of them in German. Every single choice in German.
I said mild.
Sydney said mild, but I thought that was like spicy, or I didn't know what mild was. I got the prickled, and I should have realized what prickled meant. I just figured the first. So if you're looking at them left or right, this was the one that was far to the left. And I mean, I guess I could have gotten the Evian water because I mean, I don't know, maybe it was sparkle too, but I just figured it was Evian. It was twice as much. I was getting the store. I was getting the store brand, and it didn't even occur to me that I could be getting sparkling water. And we're there that morning, and the Austrian guy down from us was just laughing.
He's thinking it's hilarious.
He's like, oh, first race in St. Polten? Yeah. So, you American? Yeah.
So, I don't know where you are out there, but I hope you enjoyed the laugh.
You're like number 400 and something because you were right next to Sam on the screen.
That's what we got. That's what I'm going to use. So, it takes me a little while because it keeps bubbling up on all my water bottles. So everything gets filled up and I'm racing. It worked out fine. It kind of tasted like a salty Mountain Dew was what I finally decided. And so for the bike, sparkling water, no real problem. I don't know that I'd do it again, but like as one of the bottles, it might be a fun, refreshing difference, just something to change it up. For the run, not a great idea. So, sparkling water on the run, not recommended. So, that's the lesson that we learned there this time. So, enjoy it.
The lesson is don't ask Billy to go get you water before a race. Not in a foreign country, anyway. Maybe you can go ask him to get it in the United States.
I don't know. He might come back with it again on the spike now.
I mean,
might have been faster. We'll find out. So I think that was all of the bad lessons that we actually learned.
oh no, there's no way that was all of them. I can't think of anything right now, but there were some bad lessons, I'm sure. There.
All right. So we'll do a review video.
I'm trying to let me talk about my run. Was there anything else that we needed to hit on as far as bikes? Anyway, for my run, I was frozen. I was frozen when I got out of the off the bike. So I'm usually pretty good about my nutrition. I've been trying to get better because that's an improvement that I can make that's pretty easy. And so I had three. I carry 3 20-ounce. I carry 60 ounces of fluids on my bike with me, and I'm expected to drink all 60 of those ounces by the time I get to transition. And I drank 20, maybe a little more than 20. It was so cold. I couldn't do anything. I didn't eat all of. I did have 3 of my 4 gels, but or Cliff Blocks or whatever, but I did not. I mean, I did drink all of my diesel. So that was what I drank all of. The Gatorade that I bought with your stuff, I didn't drink hardly any of that. So anyway, it was cold. But I get on the run, and to pace myself on my run, I have a walk run cadence. So I'll run for so long and then walk for a little bit, and then run for so long and then walk for a little bit, and that kind of paces me throughout the race. And that's how I can save energy and be able to have it at the end. There was no walking. I mean, I was so cold that I had to get my heart rate up. I had to get some warmth. I had to dry out. I mean, something. So for the first 5 miles, I mean, I was doing like way faster than I was supposed to be, and it felt good. And I think around mile 5 is when I warmed up. But then I ended up keeping the same similar-ish pace throughout the whole race. I ended up probably PRing the run course. I mean, I have to go back and check my other run courses, but that was. I mean, I guess the lesson there is if you're frozen when you start the run, then you could just run as fast as you can, because you won't feel any of it.
This was the debut race for our race uniforms too.
Oh yeah, we got to try out the new triathlon uniforms that have Crozier USA. Nobody stopped me and said anything about USA. Although we do have on the back, we have the numbers. We'll have to show you a picture of the numbers that we're starting to mark out to count down how many races. That did get some attention after the race. We got a few pictures and questions and stuff like that. So that was kind of fun.
Yeah, nobody on the course commented. Once again, serious athletes race.
Well, they're wondering how we're going to set a world record, and they're flying past us like, what are these guys doing? Yeah, but they didn't do a race. This isn't their 3rd or 4th week in a row doing a race, right. And they don't have another race next weekend.
That's very true. Yeah, this was, so according to Challenge, this was the first 70.3 or 113 kilometer race in Europe. Since COVID. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So this was
got to be part of it.
Yeah. Oh, very cool. All right. So welcome to our race review segment of this enormously long video. We of course use the 7 banana rating system developed by our top scientists. So why don't we start with check-in? 7 out of 7 bananas. So
check-in. I mean, they gave you the finisher shirt and the medal to start off with. I mean, that's never happened before. It's unprecedented. Unprecedented in our racing career. They fixed the Challenge North America problems by they give you a technical T-shirt and they gave you a backpack. I'd really like a hat. I just want a Challenge hat. I mean, I'm wearing an Ironman hat doing the race. But other than that, I mean, the COVID protocols that they had, the way they made you get the wristband to get to places, I'm not sure it could have gone smoother for us. So, I mean, I got to give it like 6 bananas, maybe even 6.5. I mean, if you would have given me a hat, maybe I'd have given you a 7, but 6.5.
Yeah, that's fair. Challenge just does not give out hats, and I don't know why.
They have them for sale on their website, not on clearance.
But, because I love the hat. I love the Ironman hats with the, where the race is. And of course, we both wore them during the race. And if you're looking at racers, it's got to be 90 or a high 90% of them are wearing caps, visors, something. So yeah, you can buy Challenge hats. I just, I'm not in the habit of buying hats. So there's nothing to improve about that check-in process. It was phenomenal. I had ordered a large shirt knowing that European sizes run a little tight. My next race, we're going to order an extra large shirt.
Do you normally get mediums? What do you get from Ironman stuff?
Mediums. So, yeah, I had been a large, medium, kick.
I
So
mean, it shows off our muscles, right? If you got
shows off your tan line.
I better pull that
Welcome
down.
to bad Iron Man tan lines. That's how you know who wears sleeves and who doesn't. So yeah, it's the hat's a little downer, but I hate to complain about something we knew wouldn't be there. The bag, once again, I'm complaining about the dry bag just because Iron Man's also giving them out. But the dry bag is phenomenal. That's the best we've gotten dry bags for full Iron Man, and they haven't been as nice as this.
Yeah, that's a good dry bag.
Yeah, I'm going to take like a quarter point away for the hat, but no problems. That was great. So transition.
So it's on a soccer field is where the bikes are, and it's fine. I mean, we've had the run bike bag stuff before where it's not near transition. The grass in the morning gets dewy, and so it was kind of wet, and so if you're walking around, your feet are going to get wet, especially up on socks. I don't like the bag system where you have to go find your bag and then put all your stuff on and then go put the bike, or then you hand off your bag to a volunteer who puts it somewhere. But I mean, if you're trying to shove a bunch of bikes into a limited area, that's really the only way you can do that. And in that system, I mean, they had it set up fine. I mean, I did not have trouble finding my bag, mainly because it was the only one left dangling when I got there. But so I mean, I'll give it 5.5. It was very well organized, and the 5.5 is mainly just because I don't like that style system, but that's
Given their bikes were slightly tighter than when you have a mat laid out. So I don't love this system, but I think its pros and cons basically match the pros and cons of the stuff at the site. Because when I've got my towel, I'm reaching to the back to get my run stuff, or I've dropped junk all over it, or somebody else has knocked my helmet off my bike. In my mind, it pretty well washes. I'm going to give this. I'm going to give it a 6.5. I'm with you. I prefer the towel system, but the soccer field was cool. The lights, they had used the stadium lights for the lighting for bikes, so you didn't have any problem seeing morning of. You hung your own stuff. You passed off your bag to the volunteer. I'm going to take the point away. I would have liked to have seen the volunteer handing you your bag. We've done that in races before, and that would solve the other issue. So you come into transition, and because they've got your chip number, your volunteers hold your bag and they can hand it to you. So there is a way to do that.
We've done it where they've even taken your bike from you and gone and racked your bike.
But that's pulling teeth. It was for what it was. It was perfectly executed.
It's very well organized. Very well organized.
You couldn't change the thing. So the swim. You got a rating on the swim?
Yeah. So I thought that the 2-lake system versus a 2-loop system was going to be better because you don't get crowded. You don't have the fast swimmers, swimming over the slow swimmers. But that's a long way between the 2 lakes. I mean, it was a long way.
And the hill down to that.
Yeah, and it was steep. And by the time I got there, by the time I was slipping on the bridge, it was a wooden bridge, but it had gotten so wet that it was still kind of slippery. And then, so you're running in your bare feet up over some gravel onto a sidewalk, which is concrete, over a wooden bridge, onto some more concrete, down, and then they had some mats to get you all the way into the water, but you had to be careful or you'd bust your butt on the mats because people were holding on to the guardrail so they wouldn't slip down. You get in the water and you hop in the water, and I was just kind of jogging. People were like running past me. I'm like, what, are y'all in a race or something? But anyway, you get to the water and you're out of breath. You hop in the water and the water's cold, so that kind of takes your breath away. So it takes you a little bit to kind of figure out where that was. So the water being cold wasn't great. The system that they had set up I didn't think was great. The weeds you had to swim through the weeds, and you get. I mean, I was catching them on my shoulders from where they'd been pulled up before, and that would have actually been fine if everybody had pulled up all the weeds, but they hadn't. So you're sitting there getting them in your fingers, and it wasn't like you could change lanes because I tried to do that. I tried to go one side or the other, and the weeds were just everywhere.
It would look like there were channels of clear like water, and then you get over there and there was weeds there too.
Yeah. So the one thing that I will give them credit for, this would have been a poor swim. I thought when they were bringing the age groups down that it was going to be a mass age group start, and it was not. Well, was it even age groups? I don't know how it was divided up. It might have been divided up about how fast you were going to swim.
I think so, but I don't remember typing in anything.
Yeah, I don't either. Anyway, they brought you down in groups, and my group was almost last. And you lined up, and then you went in like 2 by 2, and they had the timing thing right when you went in. Big improvement from Chattanooga. And then there were 3 different ways you could get in. You could dive head first in, you could jump in with your feet, or they had some stairs that you could walk down. So that I did like. They gave you plenty of options to do that. I did like the timing part of it. I liked the way that they herded you around. I mean, that part was really well done. And I've never had cheerleaders at the start. I mean, the pom-poms, everything. They were going to town. So that was pretty cool. So overall, I mean, I guess I'll give the swim a 5. It was a little unusual in that it had the 2 lakes, and so that was kind of cool to try that once. I'm not sure that I would prefer that. It was a lake, and it was cold, but the water was clear. Plenty of volunteers. So 5.
Fair enough. We've already discussed my feelings on the cold water. I don't know that I can blame the race for my lack of preparation for cold water. And it was certainly a known thing that it was not going to be warm. Their execution was great. I didn't love the run between the two. And I'm early, and so I didn't have any of those water, everything was still dry for me. We just had a different race. And so, while it was still dry, they had done the carpets really well. You were never walking on gravel. You had some asphalt, some bridge, and some more asphalt. But anywhere you had grass or gravel, there was a carpet. They'd done a great job with that. There were the rocks getting out of the second pond, which
they were fist-sized rocks. I mean, they were really big rocks.
Yeah, so that took a little bit getting used to. So it's nothing that all of my problems could have been solved by doing a test swim or something of that ilk. I'd give this a solid 6.5.
You like the swim that much?
I loved not getting swam over in a lake swim. So versus if you looked at this as a 2-loop swim, it's no comparison. I would do that run over a 2-loop swim any day of the week. If you could give me a 1-loop swim, then great. You remember Haines City that has that stupid M. It's a 1-loop swim, but it's awful. And so I really hate getting swam over that much. That this would be preferred over that in a heartbeat. I would do this swim over Haines City.
Yeah, I would too, but I wouldn't even give Haines City a 4. It'd be below a 4. I hate that swim so much, and we're doing Haines City.
We're racing that later
in December. I know. Yeah. At least my sighting is getting better. I'm swimming more in a straight line. My zigzags are more narrow than they used to be. So maybe for Haines City, you'll be able to make out the end.
Yeah, I'm giving this one a 6.
All right.
But yeah, tell me about bike. Tell me about the bike. Let's go you first.
Yeah, I hands down, it's going to be a 7. I don't know if you could even give it a higher score. Now, we're not talking about my experience on the bike but the bike itself. That's the best bike I've ever been on. I can't even imagine there being a better bike course out there. The roads were super smooth. It was closed course, super smooth roads. Yeah. Beautiful layout. They can't change the rain. And I don't even think that I would want them to change the downhill sections because you want that to be fun. Even if it's got curves in it, you want to be able to have that. just for me, it was unfortunate that I got caught up in the rain. But yeah, hands down 7. I don't think it can get any better.
If I could give it an 8, I absolutely would. Yeah, this is a solid 7. I hate hills, and it's a solid 7. It's fantastic. You come to this race for the bike. Prepare for the hills, and then come to this race for the bike. I can't describe it. It's beautiful. I really wanted to stop and take pictures. And if I had a phone, I would have literally stopped in the middle of the race to take pictures.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
There's just, you couldn't do, there's literally no way to improve it. The streets have been the best that, I can't think of better roads that I've ridden on.
About the only way they can improve it is just repaving new pavement throughout the course. Because it was so smooth. There were maybe a few sections that were kind of bumpy or had cracks or whatever, but
where they had patches, I tried to avoid the patches, and where I didn't, it didn't matter. So then I stopped.
Yeah, the U.S. needs to take some notes on how to deal with streets.
Wow. Yeah. Phenomenal.
All right. Yeah. So that was super easy.
So the run.
The run. So I'm going to try not to be biased because since you set a PR, you kind of give it a little bit extra. But I'm trying to think of how they can make it better. So you had the dirt running. You had some. You ran through some buildings, like kind of weaved through some office building type things, which was pretty cool. It was a closed course. In the beginning, they had an aid station every 1K. So that was. That was an improvement. Most of the time they'll have an aid station every mile or maybe a little more than a mile. There were some times in there that they were stretched out and maybe they were more than a mile. But as far as the aid stations, the lack of aid stations, that was, I guess you can nitpick on the bike that there were only 2 aid stations. Typically there's 3. I don't think I've ever seen a race that has 2. They all have 3. 3 is the standard, and that's just what they have.
Yeah, but I've never needed.
Yeah, I didn't use that.
2 was enough.
I didn't stop at either one, so it didn't matter to me. But if you're just trying to nitpick, I think it's fine the way they have it set up. But that's something you can nitpick on. So, but they made up for that on the run. Plenty of aid stations, more probably than they needed, because I ran by several of those too.
Great volunteers.
So, the scenery, you're kind of running along this river. The river has some waterfalls. They're like man-made waterfalls, but they, still waterfalls. You go over both of them were pedestrian bridges. You go over a pedestrian bridge, you go up to the office park, and then you come back and go over another pedestrian bridge and come back. I'm not going to say it was the best run course, but I'm trying to think of a run course that I've been on that's been better. And it was flat. It did have a few little hills. I guess I'll give it like a 6.5 because it was a very good run course. The around the finish line was a little confusing, but once you figured that out, it was fine. And the finish line, super long chute. And maybe you got to give them bonus points for the finish line. They had like stadium chairs or whatever, like grandstands or whatever. And it wasn't like VIP people were up there. Anybody could be up there.
Yeah.
So if you were waiting on your people to come in, then you could go sit in the grandstands, wait for them, take pictures, wave to them, all that. And then I actually did not see them until y'all, and I didn't even, y'all had to tell me about them, but there were cheerleaders at the finish line. I'm assuming it was the same cheerleaders. And they were probably very tired because by the time that I came in, they'd been working a 10-hour shift. I'll give it a 6.5, but caveat that with I can't think of a better run course.
No, man, I got to give this one a 7. It was just flat out fun. There's not much technical to it. You've got plenty of wide. You had a few little
narrow trails.
Yeah, dirt path, switchback things or turn things. But everything else is wide. There's plenty of space for passing. You are never on top of runners anywhere. And maybe that's just because once again everybody had already passed me on the bike and the swim. But it was plenty of room to run, and so some races will get in those really narrow things. That they just thought about a lot of things. and done it really well. The finish line was a blast. You had the announcer screaming in German. I don't know what he was saying, but
hurry up, I'm trying to go home. That's what he was saying to me. Dude, you're the last one out there. Come on.
yeah, phenomenal run course, and enough vary just to keep your attention. Two loop is my favorite because you do that first loop, and then you know what's coming for the second, and then that third one you're always really angry by it, and that's my experience. Some people like the third loop. But.
I saw Sam twice on this run. The first time I was just coming out of the bike transition and was on the run, and he was almost done with his first loop. So I was maybe, I don't know, quarter mile, half mile past the entrance or whatever. And I passed him, and like, oh, hey, Sam, how's it going? And he looks at me, hey, man, what's going on? And I guess that he had, 30 minutes or 40 minutes or whatever before I saw him again. And so he was thinking, what in the world happened to Billy? Why is he way back there? And so the next time I saw him, I was just thinking, hey, everybody got rained on the bike. I didn't know that Sam didn't get rained on the bike. I thought it was just miserable for everyone. I didn't realize it was just me. So anyway, I see him the second time, and he's like, hey, man, are you okay? What happened on the bike? And I'm like, what happened on the bike? I was cold, man. Were you not cold? I was freezing. And so that was.
It turns out we had a different race.
Yeah, we did have a different race, but that was that was my experience on the run of seeing him.
So, give me your overall rating for this race.
So I'm gonna give it. I got to take off some for the swim, but other than that, I got to give it a 6.5. I guess I'll give it a 6.5 just because I'm taking off a little bit for the swim.
Fair enough. I'm solid 7, man. This is an awesome race.
Best race you've ever been in?
Best race I've ever been in. Okay. Absolutely. So yeah. So next week,
Virginia, Ironman 70.3 Blue Ridge.
The inaugural year. We're about to find this out together.
Yeah, it's got an epic climb. Hopefully we'll do that, and we have some travel stories that we'll tell you about. Once we get back to the U.S., we'll give you an idea of the travel requirements and adventures that we had while traveling to Europe during COVID times.
Yeah. So we have terrible advice. So yeah, please look forward to the next video. Thanks so much for watching this entire thing.